Hello Guardians, it is Ebontis, and in this one I want to talk to you guys about the state of the game. So what I'm going to do is go through each section. If I've got thoughts on it, I will. Otherwise, I'll just cover the brief information. You may have seen 6 other videos about this thing already, but I was in GCX. Still wanted to get you guys my thoughts. Probably had a little more time to digest. They may not be quite as hot takes. May have had a chance to think through it, and my voice is shot. It's because, well, I was at GCX and, it gets a little loud there. So, first thing is overall plan for this. I'm going to kind of go through each section. I'm going to do a little reading on my own, and then I'll kind of summarize it. I don't want to go verbatim, but also in each section, I'm going to give you my thoughts on each part. So, top section is they just, introduced Joe. He's the game director. He's also very busy putting things together for Final Shape in the upcoming seasons. So, he basically said this came together from a bunch of different teams collaborating their information for each section that they work on. They did say back in February they did a state of the game, so this is actually the fastest we probably had a couple of these back to back. And then April, they said they looked back, learned some lessons, and then also they've got the Final Shape teaser coming up in August. And I do want to cover that, being as that trailer is in August, we're 3 weeks away from it because we're in the same damn month, and that's when they're going to reveal what's coming in the future. We're going to get to know about season 22, obviously, because it launches that day. We're going to get to know some more about the Final Shape, maybe some features there. And then maybe, cross our fingers, we'll get to know a little bit more about the future of Destiny, because I feel like they have stated that as well. So there's a lot of stuff they can't tell us in here, but they still did tell us a quite, a decent amount of information, some of which I'm, have questions about, would love to ask the devs. You can be an armchair developer, you can ask questions. I'm going to try and have some criticism, but I do want to also say that I'm not here to be an armchair developer. I'm just going to have questions as to why or what the reasons are. And again, this is, talking into the void. So, first thing we've got is ritual updates. So the big thing for ritual updates is kind of right here. In Season 22, we're updating ritual challenge requirements so that players can complete their 9 challenges in any playlist they like. As opposed to going 3, 3, and 3, you can do 9 in Strikes or 9 in Crucible and never touch Gambit. And we'll touch on Gambit later, but it doesn't seem to have a whole lot of a priority. But basically, they're going to be getting you more ritual engrams dropping, and you're going to be able to play whatever ritual you want to get the rewards that are linked to the ritual playlist. They also go through the list of vendor weapons that we're going to have, Warden's Law. We've got the new sniper for Strikes. There's a void machine gun in Gambit, which hopefully could be decent if the perks are there. We've covered some of that stuff before, but that's the idea, is you will not have to play Vanguard or Crucible if you don't want to. If you're a PvP main, you're not going to have to go play Vanguard or Gambit if you don't want to. If you like Gambit, you can play that too. It's your preference. 9 total ritual challenges instead of 3, 3, and 3. A little more flexibility for the player base. First thing they talk about is Guardians versus Guardians. This is going to be the PvP section. Now, they state specifically the most frequent feedback we see is that there's not enough maps, specifically new ones. Again, after years and years, we do kind of get a little tired of playing the same ones. Now, this is the part where I'm probably going to go a little long, but this is where thoughts are going to be. To set expectations, our studio structure is built to support more overarching updates to PvP like the ones above, rather than focusing exclusively on maps. Now, when they talk about the stuff above, they say new game modes, a revamp of trials, new comp and trials rewards, fireteam matchmaking, rotator playlists, stuff like that. They are less focused on maps. Now, I will tell you, there was a great Twitter thread that I literally read this morning from a game developer who broke it down, because on the other side, there's an armchair developer, which is, a content creator in the community, and they were kind of going through a bit of numbers on their own, but they don't have any of that real information, so it's all speculation. And again, the game dev states very clearly, they're like, all right, just to be, clear about this, we kind of have to take an abstract. You have to go with an idea. But they break down of what it takes to make a map. Now, I will tell you, from even partially exploring PvP, would I like to see more PvP maps? Absolutely. When you see other games come out with maps on a more frequent basis, that is also something that I would, you're like, okay, so why can't Bungie do that? Now, they state, when we do focus our resources on building new Crucible maps, it comes with the trade-off of multiple teams' bandwidth, on work that contributes to a variety of experiences that players hold dear, like new story or exotic missions, core activities that make up the foundation of each season, or new destinations. Similarly, bringing back reprised maps also involves extensive porting to the latest version of Destiny 2, which requires additional resources to ensure the map works correctly for multiple game modes and styles for years to come. Now, that can be saying a whole lot without saying anything that players care about. Some players are just going to be like, I don't care. Or that's not my problem as a player, which is a fair thing. Because you're like, we've been doing this for a while. You guys have had a 7-year Destiny 2. And, you know, the refocus on PvP, or whatever you want to say it, the Destiny content vault, decisions have been made, whether it's a choice to focus more on Marathon. Some of the team was pulled over there. Whether it takes hiring up new people and training them up faster. Whether it's budgets on teams. Whether it's a financial reason, putting money into PvP maps and the resources of the number of people and teams that it takes to get involved to get a map completely out to us is not an easy thing to do, and they are financially benefited by doing other things like PvP or seasons or even Eververse. That is all what is this whole discussion would encompass. So there's no easy answer to this. And I'm not trying to be a shill. I'm saying, would I like to see more PvP maps for the PvP community on a consistent basis? Yes, I would. Do I know what it takes within Bungie to get that done? I do not. And even the Twitter thread that goes through all of this thing says the number of people to like put a map together. You've got an art director, you've got concept, then you've got the actual like framing of the map, and then you've got the artist team. At some point stuff gets sent over there, then art teams are going to work on it. Then you've got testing. Is this stuff in here? Does it have to go back through QA, get some things adjusted? There's a lot that goes into anything. But again, they also state their studio structure currently is not built around making maps. And that makes some sense to a point. And some people are just hire more people. They got 3.6 billion. A large chunk of that was retention bonuses. Like, you know, say $1 billion went to make sure and keeping Destiny developers in the studio to make sure that Sony actually purchased a studio that will continue to be what it is. But on the other side, you've got players like, hey, can we get some maps more often than once every 3 years? And then disjunction, a lot of people feel that it's a skin, which kind of look at some of the evidence. Maybe it is. They state here that, you know, they have exciting content coming to PvP this month. So we've got a new map. We've got Relic 6v6. They've got Checkmate and things like that. I'm not a game dev, 100%. But also, as a player, would be nice to see a bit more variety. The Vex map looks pretty cool. You've got a mix of both like the Vex network and some Mars going in there that talk about it a little bit. But this is one of the biggest pieces of this entire article that kind of made people question, you know, what is the future? Like, okay, so if your studio is not designed for this, is it something that it can be? Can you hire enough people? Is it possible? And this is one of those things where, you know, we're only going to get so much from a blog post as opposed to what they know behind closed doors. So you can basically, you can speculate all you want. You can be an armchair dev. You can ask questions. We won't ever be able to get all the answers because we do not work at Bungie. But on the other side, as a player, it is completely fair to say I would like to see PvP content, and especially new maps, on a more frequent basis. So when a player says, I'd like to see a new map per season, and the studio says, if we do a new map per season, currently the way we are set up, we may have to give and take on some other things. Somewhere, obviously, something's going to give. Either if we do get the new map for the players, then maybe the PvE community gets a little less of a season, or the story is a little less fleshed out, or, you know, instead of 2 activities that are great, we get 1 activity that's a little less, and or maybe we just get the 1 activity per season. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not. Right now, it feels like there's give and takes, and you can say, well, they're a studio of however many X number of employees. We have no idea how those employees are distributed between teams, properties, IPs, seasons. Final Shape could be getting some stuff. All of these factors are within one studio, and we have no idea. So it is completely fair to say, I don't like the way this sounds when you tell me that you're not designed to make PvP maps. But on the other side, it's also one of those things, if you take a second and think about it from Bungie's perspective, there are reasons why either maps were not a priority financially, employee like resources, bandwidth, testing, all of the other things, there are factors that go into this. Could they be blowing smoke? You never know. But also on the other side, some players are just like, you've had years to work on this stuff. Doesn't feel like it's a justified thing. So I know I'm talking both sides, and that's kind of the point. I understand both sides of this. I can take a second and understand that Bungie may be in a situation where their bandwidth for either seasons or expansions or whatever their bandwidth process of, their process of development and how much room they have within those teams to be able to work on something like a PvP map to do it right may be a big ask. But on the other side, as a community, they feel like they've been waiting long enough. So to hear this news really is disheartening. And it's kind of one of those pieces to where both sides kind of get screwed because Bungie would like to, but maybe it's not in their setup right now. And then the player base feels like they get screwed and they can't do anything about it. It's tough. This was probably one of the big pieces, and just the wording in here, while it may be an honest piece of wording from Bungie, it did not do anything to build an ounce, I think, of community sentiment in a positive direction, because I think most of this PvP section is negative. When a large portion of your player base still plays PvP, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of content for it, doesn't seem great. So you've got the Vex map multiplex. So this is going to be one to jump around. No one will know how it plays till we get there, but should be interesting. Checkmate. So we've got a new mode, or modifier if you want to call it that. Say Checkmate will be available in Crucible Labs from week 5 to 10. A little bit of Control, Survival, a little bit of Rumble to test out the modes. It's kind of one of those things where I know they want to test stuff in labs, but I just don't know how many people play labs, so I wish it was either a bigger, like push on the director to say, Crucible Labs has this in here, please check out Crucible Labs, get something for playing it. I don't know what, but to get real testing in labs, you need a good player base to jump in there, and sometimes I feel like it's just forgotten. It is by me many times. Maybe it's not by others, but kind of one of those things I don't know how much they get out of labs. Checkmate, they say, is a modifier where rich primary weapon fights can happen more often. They say primary weapon damage has been tuned to feel different than the rest of the game, reducing the gap between faster killing weapons and the average time to kill, pushing to longer range primaries into slower killing profiles. Players' health has been increased. All ability cooldowns are lengthened. Special ammo must be earned via gameplay and is not dropped on death. This all results in slightly longer combat encounters that reward skill and consistency. So for people who want more gunplay, especially from primaries, this actually sounds positive. We will have to try it and see, but I will say if you're looking for more primary fights, you're not going to be in the same, TTK and stuff like that for all the weapons. Things are going to be different, but we'll just have to see how it plays out. But a more weapons-based mode, less abilities, I think a lot of people will be excited about that. Hopefully it's not just lost in lab somewhere. Relic basically is exactly what you think. It's party mode, kind of like Scorched, kind of like Mayhem, but this time it's going to be the relics from... It's the shield from Vault of Glass, the spear from Season of the Risen, the scythe from Season of the Haunted. I'm not sure how all of those are going to play or be balanced or anything of that nature, but basically you're going to be able to use relics and get things that way. Should be interesting. At least I always enjoy some lightheartedness, and that's kind of what their goal with this mode is. Matchmaking improvements. Some of this didn't go over too great. They are working on some fire team-based matchmaking for Crucible rotators, including labs, to help sixes not go stomp a team of singles. So tackling an issue of lobby balancing for misallocated players over certain skill levels. That's actually a big thing that would be good. They also state they're going to work on modifying their loose skill-based matchmaking settings for Control and Iron Banner. Big pieces of that being players who find themselves at the upper lower end of the skill spectrum, as well as those in lower population regions. Again, I understand skill-based matchmaking to a point, but if they describe the scale of what the skill scale is, like -1,000 to 1,000, if you should be able to go like -1,000 up to maybe 500, and then -500 up to 1,000. You're gonna have a big spread in there, but it's like I wonder how tight the restrictions are on matchmaking. And I do feel, especially like lower population times, higher end or low skill, higher or upper end skill levels, plus the lower end, those two probably don't need to meet, but there could be a whole bunch of overlap in the middle. Again, I don't see the numbers. That's fine. That's kind of a thing. They also state the Mercurial Overreach Adaptive Sniper Rifle will remain for Season 23. or Season 22. Season 23, we're going to get a new Strand pulse rifle, aggressive frame, so kind of like your messenger style. And they also say the Citadel from 2018 will be coming in Season 23, so that's the other reprised map. So that is a lot of things about PvP, but when that's a good chunk of your community, and yes, we get a fun mode, we get Checkmate, which does sound cool, but it's going to be stuck in labs for, again, most of the season. So again, it's not going to be readily into the season, something frequently played. It's not like it's just going to be Checkmate control all the time, something like that. Matchmaking, some people hate it, some people love it, but hopefully some of the changes are just better. And we get one new map, which is good, but we're like, we got one new map this year, one last year, couple reprised maps, that kind of thing. For a lot of players, this still just doesn't sound like enough. And again, I don't know what's coming in Final Shape. It could be more story and campaign and other things. So the PvP player base still feels like this is not enough. And then the news about maps is like, maps seem like a big stretch. So maybe we don't get them that often still. And that's just not great news for the PvP base. And I understand it because waited a long time. Focus seems rough. Then you hear something like Marathon, the things they're going to get with dedicated servers, security teams, and other stuff. I can empathize with that. But also on the other side, I have no idea what the inside of Bungie looks like. And maybe they're trying to get back to a place where they were with PvP. Seems like they've had some time to work on that. And maybe it just isn't coming together the way they want it to. So it does seem like PvP is going to be in a bit of a rough spot for a little while. Have to see how all of this plays out. They also talk about Vanguard. So the Vanguard playlists are currently in a solid place with a healthy population, and we have more additions coming up. First, Vanguard medals. Now, they say they're going to put Vanguard medals in and scoring and stuff like that, like we had with Guardian games. You're not going to be doing things like finishers to get a lot of points, but the more points you get, the more reputation you get, so playing creatively could get you a little bit more. I hope they make it somewhat clear, but we'll just have to see how that goes. They said also they have additional Battlegrounds coming into the Nightfall and Grandmaster Nightfall rotations in Season 22 and 23 to keep players on their toes before Final Shape launches. So more Battlegrounds that we have are going to come into the Nightfall, Grandmaster playlist and things of that nature. So not a whole lot's going to change there, it sounds like. I mean, the strike we got with any strikes with expansions, those are still going to be there. Nightfall rotations will keep going. Some of the seasonal Battlegrounds are going to go into Nightfalls. Not a drastic change. I know they're working on the Engrams dropping a little more frequently. Gambit is another one. This is an interesting discussion. Many of you have noticed we've been quiet on Gambit since last year's overhaul that launched alongside Witch Queen. In that revamp, the team made significant changes across 5 categories in Gambit. Core activity fundamentals, primeval tuning, invasions, ammo economy, and rewards. Unfortunately, these updates didn't move the needle for player engagement. Although we know our Gambit fans mostly care about new or returning maps, this is an area of the game with lower engagement that would take resources away from popular parts of the game. So the effort that the changes that Bungie made, not received well by the community, and therefore the population isn't that popular. So it's kind of a 6 of one, half dozen of another, or a chicken and egg situation. I mean, whichever way you want to look at it, it's the idea that the changes they make didn't help the playlist. They see low numbers and don't want to engage with it, and the players are like, well, we didn't like the changes you make, so yeah. They did state one map would be coming back, and also a couple enemy types. So Shadow Legion and Lucent Hive, we might see those in Gambit. And then also they state the Cathedral of Scars map for the Dreaming City would be coming into Destiny 2 during the year of Final Shape. So not until Season 24. So Gambit, not a big priority right now, not a high level of engagement. Changes they made didn't take. And unfortunately for them, is it worth putting more resources into something that doesn't get a lot of engagement, risking that happens again and those resources be wasted? Excuse me. They don't feel that's the case. So, but on the other side, you're like, if you made amazing changes to Gambit and you made it really fun, would it have more engagement? And therefore your teams probably could prioritize it a little more. Also possibly. So it's kind of a, as I say, chicken and egg. Which one comes first? Is the player base unhappy with what you did, or is what you did not great and therefore the player base is unhappy? Either way, if you read through the Gambit sections, it doesn't seem like we're going to be getting a lot of love on that one. They're also reducing the number of Gambit-specific seasonal challenges. So again, they're making Gambit about as optional as possible. Because again, you've got 9 challenges, not Vanguard, Crucible, and Gambit. Technically, now you can do everything without touching Gambit at all. And so it's just like probably the slow phase-out death of Gambit. They're going to slowly work on, replacing the freelance node of Gambit just for fire team-based matchmaking, which I'm fine with. Void Machine Gun in there better have amazing perks, otherwise that playlist may be rough. Armor sets. They've also stated, players have pointed out that we didn't release a new armor set for Ritual playlist, Vanguard, Crucible, and Gambit with Nightfall, as previously called out in our yearly release schedule. Delivering Ritual armor sets at the rates we have in the past has become increasingly challenging, especially considering these sets have historically very low adaptation or adoption for both players as armor and cosmetics. Now, this is another one of those times where it's like, I understand that you see the numbers, and again, things are going to be data-driven, but on the other side, you also be like, who looks at a Vanguard set? For one, base armor for a Vanguard set, the stats suck. I can tell you that right away. I'm never going to use a piece of Vanguard armor or Crucible armor or Gambit armor because its stats are typically garbage. They're not in the 60s, and when it comes to cosmetics, they're typically not that fun. The giant thing you hear about is Eververse seems to have all the armor sets possible. Now, we did get a good dungeon armor set. We got some decent raid armor. Like, we do get those sets, but when you're saying, I wonder why the Vanguard, Crucible, and armor sets aren't frequently used or even ornaments, because they're pretty basic and the stats are terrible. Two reasons why it wouldn't be there. Well, cosmic ornament sets, they do not seem to struggle with when it comes to ornaments from Eververse. That seems to also make them money. So again, this is where it comes into the financial decisions. Should you have people make sets of armor for your basic playlists that are not going to, for one, be used, to not make you any money, or can those artists and engineers and everything be used to make armor for Eververse that functions well, looks cool? I mean, you got the seasonal, like, wavy armor and stuff like that with, like, a jellyfish. We got, like, the bone armor from the dungeon. Those are cosmetics that I'll probably use. But again, that comes from paid content. So again, we have to wonder the financial versus the basics. And again, it's free to play. So it is kind of one of those things. At this time, we are amending our delivery plans for how often we refresh these sets, and will no longer be creating a new set every expansion. However, we are prioritizing the delivery of a new ritual armor set alongside the final shape to infuse some new looks you'll be able to show off from your time in Vanguard, Crucible, and Gambit. They also have a new armor set for Trials coming in a few short weeks. That'll be with Season 22, so you've got this set for Trials. I have to see that one a little more. It looks like a bear kind of thing for a Titan. Hard to know. But yeah, it's kind of, this is again one of those moments where it's, you say the armor sets aren't used that well as both base armor, and anybody who plays the game for a little while is not likely to use a piece of mid-50s armor as an actual piece of armor to put into your build. They're terrible. Once you get something in the 60s, you're never going to use them, and you never seem to get like a 60s armor from the basic playlists. It just doesn't even seem like an option. Then on the other side, the ornaments, the set has been very basic and generic before. I mean, one of them kind of had a little bit of a Halo vibe, but that's just like traditional space set. And we've got like Witch Queen bone armor, we've got jellyfish armor, whatever you want to call it. You've got the Sony, collaboration armor, if they do one of those again. All of those other armor sets, again, involve paid content. So not to repeat it, but it does seem like financial decisions for what the teams are spending their time on also seem to be coming out here. But as a company, their job is to make money so they can pay their bills, keep the lights on, build their team, hopefully more. And everybody's going to be like, they got $3.6 billion from Bungie. Everybody's got to stop saying that, by the way. The $3.6 billion from Bungie is not a bad thing. But again, retention bonuses, help with other things. We have no idea how that was allocated to teams, the studio, whatever it may be. Yes, they were purchased, but that doesn't mean they're just like, they're a Sony partner company, shouldn't be hurting with money. But also on the other side, they are still a company that wants to make money. Sony wants them to make money. So in turn, they still have to work on putting the financial decisions as part of it. My big issue is they need to make sure and still keep some balance in there. If I buy a season and the armor sucks and the Eververse is the only good armor, that's when I have questions. We got a cool jellyfish ornament set with the season pass. We got cool dungeon armor. This season was all right, but what's it going to look like in the future? Only time will tell. Game security. This is a whole bunch of details I'm not going to go into right now. Recent actions with people who use certain things. Basically, the biggest thing is Do not let anyone use your account. So account recoveries, don't do it. Because people are like, well, I didn't cheat. And they're like, well, we usually tend to figure out that, you know, somebody else logged into your account, whether it's a different IP or from a different state or whatever it may be when that happened. They're not going to give away their secrets of security. So I can just say they're working on evolving things with the banhammer and capabilities, keep reporting people so they can look into them, so they can keep cheating. And they've said, finally, we've worked on BattleEye to address network manipulation tools, improving our data collection, detecting and mitigation strategies. Competition is best when fair, so they're going to continue to try and do the best they can. Now, it's like, are they dedicated servers? No, so things can be tough, but what are you going to do? I'm not going to dig too deep into that one, because when it comes to game security and stuff like that, I don't play PvP that often, so I know it's out there. I know there are issues. Is what they're doing enough? Only time can let us know if people still, you know, see network manipulation or flying around the map or whatever it may be. That's just the overall issue. Is they got to they have to try. I mean, they've been suing cheaters and cheating companies and stuff like that and winning. Hopefully that does send out the right message. But basically they just said saying that your fingers were not on the keyboard when the cheating occurred will not help you in an appeal. Don't do an account recovery. And other than that, we'll go from there. Stability updates. So moving towards 7.2, Season 22, we're beginning to do internal chaos testing. They mentioned this before in 7.3, Season 23 launch. They will be helping to protect us against the stability issue that might occur in the future. Again, they broke down the detail of the claim system, the main issues with it. They're working on improving it. It does seem to be better. The patches seem to be going smoother. And again, this is just a system that seems extremely important to the game of Destiny 2. So the better they can improve it, the better things will be. It does seem like it has been better recently, so I'll give them props to hopefully some improvement. Seasonal structure. As we mentioned back in February, we've been working behind the scenes to shake up the seasonal paradigm. This year, to subvert player expectations, make each season feel unique, we know our players are looking for more variety and repeatable seasonal activities, and more than anything, we want to consistently surprise everyone with what comes in each season. Although we'll talk a little bit more about this below, we're giving ourselves more freedom to stretch narratively and in gameplay systems throughout Season 22 and 23, and hope you enjoy it. So a preview of what's to come. Quality of life upgrades. You'll be able to pin your favorite shaders, ornaments, and emotes to the top of your list. So favorites, this is a win. Stasis Aspects. Any character who has completed the Beyond Light campaign will be able to acquire all available Stasis Aspects and fragments from LC Bray. Transmats will now be unlocks. Good. Should not have to pull them from collections or anything. Just, yep, stop that. Wish Ender Pursuit improvements. The Wish Ender quest has gone through a number of changes throughout the years. And in Season 22, it becomes a real quest. No more charged or uncharged discs sitting in your inventory. Just a single quest strand in your log. So if you haven't got Wish Ender, had issues with it, hopefully next year it's smoother. Resources. Oh, God. This is a change we're really excited about. We now have a resources tab in the collections, which shows you all of your currencies, upgrade materials, and engrams in the game, appropriately categorized with information about how to acquire, as well as what to do once you have it. Maybe less of a need for me, but, you know, making a smooth guide of what to do with everything, still probably going to be there. Iron Banner challenges split. With Pinnacle rewards not being as big of a draw as they once were season over season, we felt it was time to split the Pinnacle acquisition and reputation modifiers we added back in Seasonal Haunted. In Season 22, Iron Banner will have 2 different stacking challenges each day. One for players who just want their reputation multiplier, which does not require using specific seasonal subclasses, and one for players who are going after the Pinnacle rewards, which does require subclasses. I'm fine with that. I mean, at least this way you'll have more subclass variety. So if it's a void season, you're not going to have 20 bubbles on, you know, can't even remember the name of Fortification or Fortify or whatever it was. Ritual rank ups, dating all the way back to Season 3, ritual reputations, previously known as the Vow, Glory, and Infamy, waited until you hit orbit process any rank ups because the almost full screen banner would overwrite the scoreboard if it showed up earlier. When we revamped and streamlined reputations over the past few years, we moved the rank up banner to the bottom of the screen, made them less copious. but we left the processing of ranks until you hit orbit. Now we've finally taken the step to make rank up processing immediately at the end of an activity, no waiting for your rewards. Now they'll show up right away. Sandbox. New Strand Aspects. So we're going to get the Whirlwind Maelstrom for the Hunter, Banner of War for Titans, and the Weave Walk for Warlock, so we'll see more about those. Exotic Armor Reworks Part 2. Similar to our first wave exotic revamps in Season of the Deep, team has been reworking another batch of underused exotic armor pieces in Season 22, so more stuff there. New weapon subfamilies coming. Looking further into the future, we'll be introducing some entirely new subfamilies for the final shape. Tune into the showcase on August 22nd to get your look at some of these in action. I will be streaming August 22nd, so if you're there, come hang out. We'll be talking about all this stuff, and then also jumping into the new season as well. Weapon tuning preview. So instead of reducing the variance between optimal engagement ranges for a mid-range weapons, auto rifles, pulse rifles, and hand cannons, and then slightly reduce the average engagement range in Crucible by pulling in the maximum damage fall-off of mini weapons. Reinforcing our goals for the year. So again, if you want to go through the details on perks and hand cannons and zoom and rangefinder and all that stuff, that's kind of what's going to be there. But until we get all the details, I feel like we can kind of do the high points on that one. And they're going to do a weapons preview article coming up as well, so we'll cover that in the future. About 6 months ago, we laid out our plan to achieve 4 main goals: bring challenge, enrich our content, expand players' imaginations, and connect our guardians. At the launch of Season 22 and our showcase just around the corner, we'd like to take a moment to catch everyone up on how it's going. Expand players' imagination. Now, without spoiling anything ahead of the showcase, our next season will be heading into creative territories we've never explored. We're changing some things up in a big way, including the seasonal progression paradigm with an all-new mechanic. All will be revealed on the 22nd. So again, this is why I say this is an article that says things are coming, but you just have to wait a few weeks, months, next year, whatever it may be. So this is why this article is, I mean, it's okay to read through, but there's a lot of stuff they also can't tell us right now, which for some people is like, there's a whole lot of words not saying much. So I get that at points. The community's response has reinforced that we're on the right track with norm-breaking efforts like, you know, the deep dives and pressure trials and stuff like that, which I have enjoyed. And they'll be rolling out something very new and different in Season 23. So again, future seasons, bigger changes, that I'm a fan of. Taking a step back to examine the overall narrative for the year, the team is laser focused on ensuring the connective tissue is our storytelling between Seasons 20 and 23, and the final shape is more impactful than last year's seasons were leading up to Nightfall. We're taking the feedback to heart and loading up this year with important moments designed to capture players' imaginations and move the saga forward with each beat. We've already proven that out of Season 22 of Season of the Deep with the revelation of the Witness's origins, substantial lore drops throughout the season in Neomuna, and the implications of our Guardians go from here after the final missions cutscene. We know there are some who would have preferred to experience these stories during Nightfall's campaign. A lot of people, I think. With those players in mind, we believe the totality of this year's narratives will set up the stage for Final Shape in ways that a single story beat could never do. But, and to put concerns to rest right now, the Final Shape and its raid will provide a climactic conclusion to the Light and Dark saga before we look ahead to what comes next in Destiny 2. So again, raid and Final Shape campaign seems like where most of that story will be, but also what comes next in Destiny 2, obviously more to come. Bring the challenge back to Destiny. This is one that people have some major issues with on Twitter, at least. But again, Twitter's an echo chamber. Some people are like the game's too hard. Some people like the solo content, like me. Seems to be a little overbalanced on health when it comes to Grandmaster. Some people feel they're easy. Some people they're not. You're always going to have people on the upper end who always want more challenge. And then you've got people on every spectrum in the middle that are probably like, challenge is pretty good. Or I'm getting my butt kicked. The spectrum of players in here, they're never going to win. But something like deep dives with the pressure trials is a way for a lot of different scale of players to engage in different difficulties. So we'll see how that all turns out. They also say they won't be raising the power cap in level 20, Season 22. We've seen a ton of positive feedback on this decision. So right now, we'll still have plenty of activities where power is crucial. So once you get up there, you won't have to get it again. But if you've got it, at least you don't have to go acquire the power level. So artifact power will be the thing. Regular power, not so much. Enriching the content. Based on feedback throughout the year of Witch Queen, we knew players wanted more exotic missions that the community would need to discover on their own. We also heard the request from longtime players that the return of previously released exotic missions. So in Season of Defiance, we delivered the Avalon exotic mission with Excalibur. Season of the Deep brought the Whetstone exotic mission. Again, I have no idea how they're going to get Whetstone back in there. So the rotation will kick off with the return of Presage, which will be craftable. Vox Obscura will join the rotation. And also, you've got Operation Seraph Shield, which the weapons, you've got Dead Messenger and then Revision 0, they will be craftable as well. So again, Dead Man's Tale, Dead Messenger, Revision 0, new exotic rotators, craftable missions. You guys know I'll be doing guides on those and all that type of stuff. But more details on what else to expect in the rotator coming up in an upcoming This Week at Bungie, This Week in Destiny. Man, I can't talk. As we get closer to launch. To recap the PvP front, we'll be delivering new Season 22 content we mentioned above, including the brand new multiplex map, Relic and Checkmate, which will be in labs, the new competitive Ascendant Division emblem, and a new Trials armor set. Also, weapons come into the playlist. They discovered that previously. Finally, we called out back in February that we initially were targeting more changes to ritual content in the future season of the year. While we made a recent decision to push the initiative to final shape, we have plans to replace some bounties with a more rewarding and engaging system tentatively called the Pathfinder. This is new. This is going to be debuted on the new destination in the final shape, and we're currently nailing down a plan on how we can use this new system to replace core ritual bounties in the new year. For now, here's a work in progress. So it looks like doing certain objectives, checking X number of boxes as you get farther and farther, get more things done, make progress towards an engram. Maybe if you can work your way through and do enough things, check enough boxes, we'll see. It's kind of vague right now, but definitely different at the moment. Some of those are placeholder icons, so for now, kind of hard to tell. But it does seem like maybe if you do certain objectives instead of bounties, get X number of kills, complete a certain number of strikes, you can kind of get to the end in whatever way seems to fit you best. Connecting our Guardians, the gameplay, systems, and quality of life features we had in the Nightfall made Destiny 2 the most welcoming it's ever been. Season 22 will include new ways to experience key in-game moments for Destiny's history and will help get millions of Guardians caught up for the confrontation with the Witness. In Season 23, our upcoming Fireteam Finder, which I knew was 23, will be the silver bullet for players who've never had a full fire team to run in-game content before, including raids, dungeons, master level, and more. And in the final shape, we're making big changes to the progression system that will help connect even more players and remove barriers, keeping friends taking on the same content together. More info in the showcase. Again, so much in the showcase, can't do a whole lot about it right now. So that is most of it. This is a long video at this point, so I'm probably going to wrap it up, but right now, if you are frustrated, I understand it. If you can empathize with Bungie a little bit, I also understand that. Are you a shill? Are you an armchair developer? All of the spectrums in between, I understand. Biggest thing I can say at this point is right now, I'm just going to wait for the showcase. Because showcase may blow us away. Showcase may be cool. We may see some good stuff. But we also know some of the stuff is going to come in time. PvP maps may be a little slow. It's fair to be frustrated, excited about some things, and frustrated about others. Cautious optimism, we will see. As a content creator, I'm going to be here. It's not going to change. PvP players, I understand the frustration. PvE players, feels like you're doing okay, but again, maybe the whole free-to-play and all the other stuff is an issue. We will see what happens in the showcase. We'll break more of it down later then, but I did want to give you my thoughts, and hopefully I kind of pair them out. I didn't go full detail and full read on some of the stuff, but I did want to cover the things that I thought were important. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like below, leave a comment if you have thoughts about this thing. Just keep the constructive criticism reasonable. If you're just like, this game sucks, Bungie is awful, blah, 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 it's like, don't be a jerk in the comments. That doesn't do anything. That's the biggest thing. If you can have constructive criticism and say, hey, I understand these are these things, but I'm also a player, and 3 years without a map doesn't feel great, and I do feel like leaving the game because the PvP focus just doesn't seem to be there. That is reasonable. If you're just like, Bungie sucks, there's nothing you can do with that. So think about that when you leave a content. Again, if you know you're going to be playing this thing for a while like I am, we are in for the roller coaster that is Bungie and the ups and downs as we go. So hit the subscribe button if you're new. Come check out my other content. Have a good one, everybody, and I'll be seeing you soon.